The inside scoop of Putin's India visit: Prime Minister will be organizing a private dinner for the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and that dinner will be tomorrow evening at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. Remember, in 2018 too, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had hosted Vladimir Putin for dinner at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. Putin had also hosted Prime Minister Narendra Modi for dinner last year in Moscow. So the dinner diplomacy between the two world leaders continues. It is going to be tomorrow that Putin will be hosted yet again at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. My colleague Aman, with all of those details, Aman Sharma is joining us from the CNN News 18 newsroom. Aman?
Well, yes, Greha, this is always a special gesture by the Prime Minister for the top-level visiting dignitaries, and tomorrow evening we will see the Russian President being hosted by Prime Minister Modi for a private dinner at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. This was also happened in 2018 when Mr. Putin was in India. Then too, the Prime Minister had hosted him for a private dinner at 7 LKM. And last year when Prime Minister Modi was in Moscow, Mr. Putin had hosted Mr. Modi for a private dinner in Moscow. So this is essentially also kind of a reciprocal diplomatic gesture. And these dinner which happens also sees very significant talks between both the leaders. Also in 2018 when Mr. Putin arrived at the airport, the Foreign Minister of India that time was present to receive Mr. Putin at the airport. So it remains to be seen who really goes to receive the Russian President this time at the airport. But the Prime Minister has had this tradition of hosting top world leaders for private dinners at his residence. He had hosted Joe Biden also when he had come for the G20 summit, then the then US President in 2023. Earlier in 2018, I was telling you about Vladimir Putin, also Benjamin Netanyahu. When he came in 2018, he was hosted for a private dinner by the Prime Minister at his residence. J.D. Vance, the US Vice President, also was hosted for a private dinner by Prime Minister Modi earlier this year in April when J.D. Vance was here. So this also speaks of the close relationships Mr. Modi has with the world leaders, because this is also a very personal, gesture, inviting a foreign dignitary to your home for a private dinner and also holding, talks, informal talks. Of course, there will also be an official banquet hosted by the president of the country the next day, on the second day of Mr. Putin's visit. But the first day, the main engagement expected to be after Mr. Putin's arrival is this private dinner which will be hosted by Mr. Modi at his residence at 7 LKM for Mr. Putin.
And like you said, Aman, it is going to be more than food. We call it dinner diplomacy for a reason.
Well, absolutely. And, when these two leaders meet, I remember when for Mr. Biden came for G20, when the private dinner was held. And at that stage, Greha, I remember the joint statement of the G20 looked very unlikely. But as soon as Joe Biden had met Prime Minister Modi, next morning, we saw the joint statement being putting out. And, clearly the talks between both the leaders was able to achieve, in a way, that joint statement. So, in a way, the personal equation that Prime Minister Modi has with top world leaders, always has a big role to play in the way the diplomatic relationship works out. And now we have Russia clearly saying that they want to elevate their relationship with India to a full-fledged partnership. That could be very interesting if that issues are discussed between both the leaders. Also the US envoy to stop the Russia-Ukraine war has just met the Russian president in Moscow. Will Mr. Putin brief the Prime Minister of India also about what those talks have led to, because India has been long a proponent that the Russia-Ukraine war should stop, and PM Modi has repeatedly said this is not the era of war. So I think this particular visit of Mr. Putin, these particular talks which happen are very significant.